even if you go back to other translations of the word work, it actually work is also translated in the same word as worship, right? So there's a level of worshiping and working hard. There's nothing wrong with hard work, right? No matter what anybody else tells you, I would rather work hard and go earn my money and feel great about myself because it lines up with how God made me than ever get a government handout or get a check from something doing nothing, right? It steals your incentive, it steals your heart, it steals your soul. We're not designed to be that way.
Hello, everyone. We are Greg and Jacquie Francis, and welcome to High Performance Parenting, where our passionate goal is to encourage you to raise champion children in a crazy world. Every week, we will bring you multiple episodes from our extensive experience of raising our six happy, healthy, successful, godly kids who are confidently equipped to win big in life.
We deeply believe that any parent who is provided with the right knowledge and continual support can raise amazing kids. And when they do, all of our futures get better. If raising up future generations of absolute champions matters to you as much as it does to us, here's how you can contribute. Like and share this podcast with everyone you know. And together, let's embrace this journey of raising champion kids in a crazy world. Okay, guys, we're back. Part 2 of our topic on teaching our kids all about voting. And I know that some would think this is a sensitive topic, but we think it's an absolutely important topic. And that's why we don't shy away from talking through things that affect our futures so greatly. So today on this episode, if you haven't heard our previous episode, I suggest that you do, because there's a lot of foundation about why we actually are having this discussion with our kids and why we think that everybody should have a discussion like this with their kids and how to get on the same page. But for this one, we really want to dig into, I want to teach you guys a little bit about how we actually vote biblical principles. We don't necessarily vote for a certain candidate, a personality, whether they're a certain sex, male or female, whether they're a certain race, right? What the color of their skin looks like. We don't vote out of emotion like that. We vote from biblical principles. First of all, we're all God's kids. So that stuff really is pretty insignificant in my mind as far as how it affects who we're going to vote for. Now, another thing is you need to understand that the role of the president has an extremely high responsibility to represent the desires not only of the people of the United States, but more importantly, to support and enforce the Constitution of the United States. Okay, this is something that's been lost over time, and I don't think if you asked people, probably 9 out of 10 couldn't tell you what a president's role is. But I will tell you this: one of the main roles, you guys, is that Constitution gets reinforced, that it gets enforced, because our country was founded by these founding fathers who actually based it off of their biblical values and truths, which we will prove in our next episode, okay? But before we do that, I just want to talk this through a little bit, and you guys feel free to jump in if you have a question, okay? I know sometimes I just get rolling. You have to interrupt me, because otherwise I'm just going to keep going, because this stuff gets me all fired up, and I love teaching you guys truth, because I feel like you as young kids are getting a mile ahead of where most adults are. You guys ever feel like that, by the way?
Yeah. Definitely. It's awesome being able to answer these type of questions, even though it's not what other kids our age know, or if they know it, they only know a portion of it, and we actually know the full truth. And I think that's really helpful going into young adult life.
That's good. So let's just talk a little bit about, what do you think? How do you think Jesus would vote?
I think Jesus would vote based off of what is closest to what he would do as a president. So he would protect his kids' rights. I mean, what parent would not protect their kids' rights?
That's good.
He would protect his kids' rights. He would protect the earth he created. So he would make sure nobody abused that. He would vote for someone that would represent him in a correct way by representing his kids.
Yeah, that's true. It wouldn't be self-serving, would it?
Right.
It wouldn't be for him to get a leg up in some form of advantage over something financially or anything else, or in power. He would actually vote based on the living word of God is what he would do. So, talking about that, there's a couple different mindsets. So a lot of times, from my experience, the Democratic mindset has been one more of what you would call financial equality, almost borderline socialism. Do you guys know what that means? That means that they believe in people that have worked hard to succeed and create high levels of income, that nobody really needs that much income, so we should distribute it out to the poor. We should share it all with other people, even people who may not be working hard. We should share. It's kind of like, Chrissy, right now, you're forming up your amazing new company, Redwood Super Kids. Shout out.
Super excited.
Right? And you're getting people subscribed to a monthly subscription. You guys can reach out to us through our website if you want to. Just go to teamredwoods.com. All our information's on there. Pretty soon, Super Kids will have its own place to go as well. And but you can reach out. She's doing a subscription. It's $10 a month per kid. And she's basically taken a lot of the stuff that me and Jackie are teaching on our podcast here on high performance parenting, and she's teaching it to youth from a youth. So that way there's a different angle being hit. So the kids are learning this, not just the parents, right?
Right, yeah. So the kids can support their parents and what they're learning, and then the kids can actually be on board and know how to properly do it also.
Right. So have you been working pretty hard at it?
Yeah, I've been working.
What have you done? Like
I
created videos,
Yeah.
had to write scripts. You've been
Exactly.
listening to the podcast, taking notes, preparing topics,
Uh-huh.
right? Like, I mean, you put a lot of hours, and we haven't even launched it. It launches next month, right?
Right, I've been working on, getting more educated myself, listening to the Bible, listening to other influences that my mom and dad suggest to me,
You had to learn. You had to learn how to put together a website.
Right, I figured out how to put together a website.
You're learning how to do invoicing. You're learning all these. You had to learn how to do effective videos and actually
Right.
edit them and
Yeah.
put cool things in them so they're interesting. How many times do you have to redo your videos? Who even knows?
Oh,
right?
right. Like so many times that I'm like, guys, tell me, do you think this
I mean,
looks good?
it's a lot of hours. So now, let's say, when we launch in November, you're up to, I'm just going to say we're at 100 kids on it, right?
Yeah.
So you're making $1,000 a month, right? So now that's $1,000 a month at that
Yeah.
point. Okay. And so now let's just say, okay, mostly like a more of a socialistic type mindset would be if me and your mom are the government of this house. And we say, hey, Chrissy, I know you've been working hard and everything, but the reality is I don't even know a kid that's 14 years old needs to make $1,000 a month. And in fact, your younger brothers, your younger brother and sisters, they actually, they're kind of hurting for money right now. They're not really doing anything to make any. So what we're going to do is we're going to split up the $1,000 between all 6 kids. Okay. So they get to make the money off of that, whatever that number turns out to be. How would you feel about that?
I would feel like that is super unjust and unfair based on how many hours I invest into this that they probably went out and played, that I wanted to do what they were doing, but I didn't because I cared so much about the people I was serving. And I would be like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to be able to keep doing this and
so
give
it
my
would
money
steal
to
your
siblings.
incentive.
Exactly.
It would, right? For sure. Now, when you build Super Kids to a certain size, let's say, it's 1,000 kids and maybe you have some other needs, will you hire other people probably to help you with things?
Yeah, for sure.
So then other people are making money and they're employed and now they're helping take care of their families, aren't
Right,
they?
yeah.
Is that a good thing you did?
Yeah, I think so.
100%. So then if we had to distribute all your money and maybe pay 50% of it taxes, would you have to hire less people then? So more people would be out of work then?
Yeah.
That would happen, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
right?
couldn't afford it.
That's how a lot of times when new administrations get in office and they raise taxes, next thing you know, they think it was all good to tax the quote unquote rich. But now the rich have to make adjustments. So then they have to fire half of their employees. And now there's more unemployment and actually families are getting hurt.
Right. Yeah.
I think some of the people I look up to the most are people who build big corporations and create opportunity for others. Right.
sure, yeah.
And they should be able to actually be heavily incentivized because if you're going to do the work, you should earn the reward. That is the American way.
For
right?
sure, yeah.
And so there's a lot of people that disagree with that. And typically, from my experience in the past, it comes from the Democratic side. Let's take it to a biblical level, though. What do you think God was? You think he was a conservative person where he's like all about less government, more personal freedom, less taxation, more do your own thing? What do you think? What do you think God was?
Well, God
is, I should say.
God, when Jesus came down to the earth, he was saying that he was going to give everybody a choice if they wanted to be saved. So he gives everybody choices to do what they want to do, whether it is voting the way they want to vote, choosing which side, being a business owner if they want to. They did not say that you have to tax people so that everybody's equal because some people didn't do the work. Everybody gets a choice to be everybody gets a choice even to be saved by Jesus Christ. Like it's their choice. But Jesus did all the work for us to have an amazing life. He
Yeah.
set all the skills. He gave us skills that we can use so we can be successful. And so we got to use those skills to be successful, but we have to put in the work. Jesus is not going to put in the work. He gave us the opportunity.
What is God's idea about work? Do you guys know? Like, what does he say? Does he say you should work hard?
Yes.
Well, he
does.
says it how many times? He
So
talks
many
about in
times.
Proverbs how, if you're lazy, you're going to become poor, right? And that it's good to work hard. Even if you go back to other translations of the word work, it actually work is also translated in the same word as worship, right? So there's a level of worshiping and working hard. There's nothing wrong with hard work, right? No matter what anybody else tells you, I would rather work hard and go earn my money and feel great about myself because it lines up with how God made me than ever get a government handout or get a check from something doing nothing, right? It steals your incentive. It steals your heart. It steals your soul. We're not designed to be that way. And government programs will sometimes try to get votes just by saying, hey, if you're out of work, here's some money. Here's free government money. Vote for me. Right. And the problem is they're thinking about that person's short-term initiative, but he or she does not understand that that's the worst thing that they could ever do. Right. Because it could really hurt them. So I'll tell you how I know that God is a conservative. It's called the parable of the talents. Right. Think about what he said. Everybody know the story? How's it go? Who wants to say it? Chrissy? Drews?
The master gave 3 denarii to the first servant, then 2 to the second, then 1 to the third, and he went away. And then the first servant went out and doubled it, got 6. The second servant did the same thing, doubled it, got 4. But the third servant went out and buried it because he was scared of losing the money. So when the master came back, he said, "Good job, good faithful servant," to the first and second servant because they doubled. But then when he came
said,
to
well
the
done,
third,
good and faithful servant, because I can trust you with little. Now I can trust you with cities.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So he was like, good job. You went out, you took something, you put some risk at it, you put some effort at it, and you multiplied it. Right? God is into multiplication, And what about the person who said, I'm too scared, I'm just going to bury it. I don't want to risk anything. I don't know if I really want to do any work for it. I'm just going to bury it and wait, and at least you'll have the same thing and come back. What did he say?
The master said, "You wicked servant, you went out and buried it because you were too scared to even try. Now I will give your money to the first servant because you have done nothing."
So he actually strips him because of his laziness. He strips him and gives it to somebody who will actually produce more multiplication. We love and serve a God of multiplication, right? We love and serve a God of freedom. He wants us to actually go out there and have the freedom to go win and succeed. And if you want to work your butt off, you can make as much money as you want to. Do you ever let the money get to your heart? Do you ever let that happen? No. I mean, if you really sum up everything that Jesus warns about money, he basically, everything in there it gets summed up in one phrase: always keep God first. Right? Take that money and be super generous with it. Take that money and take care of others. I think that honestly, the definition of prosperity is that you make enough money to be able to support everything that God puts on your heart to advance his kingdom, with enough left over to help other people do the same. Right? That's real prosperity. Instead of, well, let me just take care of me. Let me just make just enough money for me. Let me just do what I'm doing. So I'm going on a different path here, but when it comes to voting, the Republican Party in general, and there's a lot of people that are not people I really am a fan of, okay? Because they can get in any party. But in general, the Republican Party typically supports smaller government, more people's freedom. Less taxation, more people keeping more of their hard-earned money for incentive. That is, Democratic Party is kind of the opposite. They come up with everything from climate change and this and that, and hey, here's 8,000 new socialist-type programs that we now need more of your taxpayer money for, because otherwise, you know what? If you're not doing that, you're not a good person. And I don't like that. It hasn't always been that way, but that's kind of where it is right now. Does that all make sense to you guys? Okay. Yeah. So anybody have any questions at this point? No, we're doing good. Okay. All right. So Now, do you guys realize that whether, and you notice, who knows what Matthew 6:33 is?
Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness,
Yeah.
and all things shall be added to you.
Yeah, if you go back up a little bit in Matthew 6 even, it's like the disciples were all worried about like economics, So Jesus had talks about economics, and he basically was saying, why are you worrying about anything? We're going to take care of you, right? Look at the birds and look at the animals who they don't even know how to do something and reap a reward. And yet you never see them starving. I had a friend tell me one time, they said, you know how you can trust God in finances? He said, the moment that I might stop is if I ever look outside and all I see is all these birds and everybody starving to death. Right? Look, he said, it's never happened. God takes care of his people, but we also have the ability to create increase. So the point is, though, he's talking about why would you worry about this stuff? And then he says, instead of worrying about economics, because you know what? The reality is a lot of people will vote based on economics. Does it matter? I think it matters. Yeah. We're feeling it. This administration we're in right now has created so much extra expense in our life with 8 of us that, groceries, everything else, it's like a whole different ballgame. It really has impacted us, and we do better than most. But he even says, like in Matthew, he's even saying, you don't have to worry about economics so much. You don't even really necessarily need to vote for economics. You know what you need to vote for? He says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. So you seek first righteousness. You know what that means? His morality. You seek first his kingdom principles. You stand on things that God instructs us to do. You seek that first, and economics will work themselves out. So as believers, we have a responsibility to be seeking righteousness with even how we vote. Okay, does that make sense? And whether or not the righteous or the wicked get into office, it's going to be based on whether we show up. That's why it's so important that we go out there and we vote. That's why I love being part of a church that actually talks about this, that organizes around this. And we try to organize around who can bring the most righteousness to our nation of the candidates that we currently have. Well, I'll tell you, first of all, if somebody is anti-God, they aren't bringing righteousness to there. If they some of the values that they have, they show. Like I'll explain to you a couple here. For those that are out there, a really good website and person to study is David Barton, and it's called Wall Builders. And it's a Christian organization that really gets involved in politics and teaches a lot about historical viewpoints of Constitution, et cetera. What books are you guys reading right now that's from him?
We're reading quite a few from him. One of them is called The Jefferson Lies, so it totally proves wrong a lot of the lies told about Thomas Jefferson. I'm reading one that is called, it's called The American Story, The Beginnings.
That's a good one.
And then there's one that comes after it that's called Building the Republic. So they kind of go hand in hand with teaching you the different biblical foundations that actually happened when our founding fathers, founded America.
And then if you look on his website, I was looking, and he has a couple other resources or partners, and one is called iVoterGuide.com, the letter I, voterguide.com. Another one is VoteUnderGod.com, and it pulls up okay, what's some simple ways to see what some of these candidates support or don't support? For instance, it has a list here, the overturn of Roe versus Wade. Do you guys know what that is? That was a law regarding abortion. Okay. You see these Planned Parenthood places. These are places where people who get pregnant for whatever reason, they don't want that kid because it's an inconvenience. They will just go there and they will give them an abortion. They will kill that baby. Right. And they now, what do you think God thinks about abortion?
God does not like abortion.
Well, it's really, what does God think about murder? And that's really what it is. It's see, when you start thinking it's just about you and your body, you're forgetting that listen, like our kids, I told this all the time, it's a core value of ours. My kids are not just mine, they're God's. And he says, I knew you before you were created in the womb. So it isn't like that even once once mom gets pregnant, it isn't like you aren't an actual person until you are birthed. You're a person from the moment of conception. God says he knew you even before then.
Right.
And he has plans for you, plans to prosper you and never harm you, right? He hasn't. So regardless of how, let's say that some people have premarital sex they aren't careful, and they really shouldn't even have a kid yet, and they're young or whatever, right? Does that baby deserve to die because of their bad decision? No. And are there people out there who would like to actually have that baby, even if they put it up for adoption? I mean, there's miles long of people waiting for stuff like that. So you look at this, and the reality is, Donald Trump, he supported this overturn, basically meaning we're trying to remove the ability for all these people to be able to give abortions at any term. Some people do it all the way up till almost when they're born, like a full baby. Like it's just crazy to me. Kamala Harris, she actually opposed that. She wants it to get back into the abortion game. Does that make sense? Okay, she's very vocal about it too. In fact, another big topic is taxpayer-funded abortions. I was telling you about our tax money. We don't even know where it goes. Well, some of it is even going towards actually helping people have abortions. We're paying out of our tax money to actually help people have these procedures that we don't even agree with. Okay, so what is Donald Trump? He opposes any kind of taxpayer-funded abortions. Kamala Harris actually supports it. How about religious liberty? Protecting business owners' ability to run their business in accordance with biblical teaching about marriage, family, and sexuality, right? In other words, we should have the right to be able to serve who we want to serve and not serve who we want to serve without any kind of fear of punishment from anybody else. Right. You want to come in and you are a guy who wants to pretend you're a girl, and you want to go in and use the women's restrooms and stuff while my young girls are in there. I can say no. You can't come here. I don't know what you're going on with you. Honestly, I hope that you get your mental state right for your own benefit. But at the same time, as a business owner, when I've created this, we have the rules that we want to have. So religious liberty, Donald Trump supports it. Kamala Harris opposes it. She'll call it everything. Well, you're that person because they were, a different skin tone or a different, whatever, ethnicity of some sort. They'll be like, well, you're racist because you did that. I'm not racist. I just don't want to support something that's ungodly. Does it make sense?
Right.
Okay. Same-sex marriage legislation. This is something Kamala Harris supports. Transgender competition in sports. You know what that is, right? Mm-hmm. That's where when somebody wants to say, that's when a boy wants to say he's a girl and says, well, I can't compete with other boys. Let me go compete with other women. How fair is that, right? How fair? You guys have played basketball with me in the driveway before. Right. You think it's fair for you to have to play basketball against someone like me?
No.
Am I a little stronger than you are, right? I mean, and that's always, God made us that way on purpose, right? So who supports transgender competition in sports? Donald Trump opposes it. Kamala Harris supports it. Taxpayer-funded gender transition. You come to me at 7 years old, and because someone planted a seed in your head that maybe you're not really supposed to be a girl, maybe you're supposed to be a boy. It's garbage, first of all. I can't even stand it. Whole nother topic. But at this point now, the taxpayers, they will actually do this. Some states will actually get the parents in trouble if they even oppose their kids. That's happening in California right now. Is that crazy or what?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so now you got taxpayer-funded gender. So now not only do we disagree with it, but now you're going to use my tax money that you're taking out of my checks for my own family, and now you're going to, again, pay for something that I don't even believe in. See, Donald Trump opposes doing that. Kamala Harris supports it. How about teaching children sexual topics? Allowing sexual orientation and gender identity to be taught to public school students at as early as kindergarten.
Oh my gosh.
Right? That's Hunter's age right now as a 5-year-old. Okay. Donald Trump opposes it. Kamala Harris supports it. It talks about Chinese purchases of American farmland, who have always been it's always been a country that has been kind of an opposing country to us historically, right? And, are we supposed to allow the Chinese government and connected entities to purchase farmland in America? They would love to buy up the whole United States so that way we can become China. Donald Trump opposes it, okay? Entitlements for illegal immigrants, allowing illegal immigrants to access taxpayer-funded benefits such as Medicare and Medicaid. So now when people are illegally coming across the border, they're supposed to go through a legal process and love this country to even be able to be allowed to be part of it. But they aren't. They've been historical numbers of illegal immigration, and it has directly to do with Kamala Harris and her lack of trying to keep them out. In fact, probably an opening of her letting them in. Well, now now they want to start using our taxpayer money to actually pay for these people. when we have hurricanes going on in North Carolina and they're not sending them any money and people are hurting. Guess what? Entitlements for legal immigrants, Donald Trump opposes it. Kamala Harris supports it. Minimum wage increase. Guess what? Kamala Harris supports it. You might think, well, that's nice. People can make a higher. What if the job isn't valuable enough to charge a high amount of money? That doesn't make sense. If I'm a business owner and I have small roles that I need somebody to do for $10 an hour, but you tell me I have to pay them $15, even no matter how good they are or bad they are at it. See, now I can hire less of them because I can't afford it. Do you see what I'm saying? Or I got to raise prices to all my customers to afford this. Just crazy. So energy independence, of course, Donald Trump wants to expand oil and gas drilling in all of our federal lands. Why? It keeps all of it here in the U.S. instead of having to pull it in from a different country. See, these are the kind of topics that you got to take time to educate yourself on, because probably before today, you probably didn't know anything about these, right? Not necessarily, maybe a little bit of what I've explained, but this is important. You got to know what you're voting for, because the TVs are going to tell you Donald Trump's bad because he says mean things. So don't vote for a guy who says mean things. I don't care how mean he is. I care whether he runs the country according to our biblical values, okay? I don't care if the other person's a woman. I don't care if they're the first whatever president. I don't care if they're not going to run the country according to biblical values. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I'm going kind of long on this episode. I just think it's so important, because I'll just tell you, I'm going to tell you something that really helps me with this. No matter how much blowback I might get, we'll probably get a lot of negative feedback from other people who don't think like we think, the reality is, you guys, we are in a country that was founded on biblical principles by Christian people. Yes. Okay. So we literally have a Christian-made constitution. But then over time, the wrong people being in office who are not Christian, who are not godly, who hate everything there is about God, many of them openly. Now, they have been saying it's not right for you to promote Christianity in public. It's not right for you to even say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. You can't even pledge allegiance to our own country anymore in certain places. They're saying it's not right. You can be any other religion outside of Christianity. Isn't that something? Doesn't that just tell you what the adversary fears the most? Right? You ain't afraid of any of these other ones because they have no power. Okay? But because over time, they've been trying to constantly remove that God is the most important thing in our life. Well, now you have a nation of people who have been convinced that God's not important, trying to live in a Christian-based constitutional republic. No wonder these people want to try to tear our Constitution down. No wonder there's a clash right now. No wonder they say, we don't really believe in free speech anymore. We believe in censorship because we don't want people to get their feelings hurt, right? They would love to censor this episode. I promise you, okay? But we still have a First Amendment. We have a Second Amendment. Anybody know what the Second Amendment is?
The right to bear arms.
The right to bear arms. Do you know why?
In defense of government overreach.
I love it, Chrissy. That's exactly right. So if anybody ever starts trying to take away our First Amendment, that's why they said you better keep some weapons, because these government people might try to take over everything.
Right.
It was never you should have weapons so you can just go kill random people. It was you got to have weapons so you can defend yourself against government overreach. Every country I've ever seen that's ever given up their guns, and by the way, this Democratic Party has vocally said that they would like to confiscate certain levels of our weapons. Right? It's the first step in wanting to do this. No way. Okay. So anyways, we are in a season right now where I think voting is more important than ever. It's always going to be important, but we have to get out there and we have to be bold and we have to stick together as a family. We got to be educated and we have to be independent thinkers. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. Sure do love you guys.
Love you too.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening and thanks for your love and support. We hope that today's episode added tremendous value to you and your family. It would mean so much to us if you would partner with us on our mission of helping parents around the globe raise champion children in this crazy world.
To do so, simply take a moment to like and share this podcast with everyone in your network. See you next time.